Welcome to Sinful's Horror Stories. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Be sure to stay sinful. Story number 1. This story takes place in England. My name is Eric. I'm a 25-year-old male. One evening I was scrolling through my Facebook when a woman called Anya messaged me saying hello. I didn't know who she was, and I usually don't reply to strangers, but she was pretty attractive, so I thought, why not? And I decided to message her back saying hi. Some time had passed and we ended up talking all night. We got along so well. She was very nice and seemed to be into the same things as I was. I'm a metalhead and into dark gothic stuff, and she was the same. That same night she asked me if I wanted to go to her house. That same night she asked me if I wanted to go to her house the next night to listen to music and watch some movies, just hang out and that sort of stuff. It seemed very sudden, I know, but I thought we got along so well. I don't have anything planned and she was only 20 minutes drive away. We traded phone numbers and then the following night I got myself ready and drove to her address. The house she lived in was out in the country and a little further than I had anticipated. When I finally arrived, I saw the home. It was a big country house from the outside and was very beautiful, to be honest. I also noticed there were 3 cars in the driveway. I thought that was odd because she told me she lived alone, but maybe she just owned more cars. I messaged Anya letting her know that I had arrived. She replied telling me to just come in and go upstairs and proceed into the bedroom. That was strange that she wouldn't just meet me at the door. When I entered the house, the place was so dark it hadn't been cleaned or maintained in years. Had a weird, unpleasant old smell. I then proceeded to head upstairs, the old creaky, dusty stairs. I spoke out saying, "Anya, where are you?" A voice called out from one of the rooms saying, "In here." The voice sounded older than I expected. It was more like an elderly lady. I entered one of the bedrooms from where the voice came from. I was horrified from what I saw next. Standing in front of me was a naked old lady who looked like she had blood smeared all over her, and 2 men standing next to her wearing black robes and cow skulls on their head, some kind of mask. My heart stopped. I was in pure shock and I couldn't breathe. The lady stepped to the side and she revealed a goat whose throat had been slit and drained of blood. She spoke and said, "You're our next sacrifice to the Lord Satan himself." The 2 men began to approach me. I turned around and sprinted as fast as I could. They chased me down the stairs. I flung the front door open and one of the men tackled me to the floor just as we got outside. I wrestled with him, trying to punch him and get him off of me, which I did after a short struggle. I got up, dashed to my car. The man then ran up to my car, started banging on the window, trying to open the door. I quickly started the car and began to drive away as soon as I started accelerating. I saw the second man a few meters away in front of my car. He obviously anticipated my escape and tried to stop me. I slammed on my brakes, and the man who tackled me ran up behind my car, smashed the back window in my car. At that point, I just slammed on the accelerator and hit the guy who was trying to block my way, running him over. I had no choice otherwise. My life would have been over. I drove as fast as I could home. I never told anyone about what happened, and I sure as hell don't use social media anymore. Story number 2. My name is James. I'm a 16-year-old male. One evening I was playing some Black Ops 4 on my PS4. I was having a good night, getting lots of kills and enjoying myself. I came across this one guy whose online ID was Killer Ken 663. I kept killing him over and over, and as he had a headset on, I could hear him shouting and swearing every time I killed him, which I found pretty funny. He stayed in my lobby for about 4 games or so, each time getting more angry and upset. I was finding it funnier though each time. After about the 4th game of destroying him, he spoke in the lobby before the next match and said, "God damn it, that stupid kid keeps killing me." I sat there laughing, but all that changed when the next words he spoke were, "I bet you find this really funny, don't you, James?" I immediately stopped laughing and my heart sank. My eyes opened wide. I was so shocked. How did he know my name? It's not possible. My online ID is COD-GOD122. There's no way he could know my real name. Immediately I left the lobby. I sat there at my desk for a few moments, pretty freaked out. I took a breath and calmed down a bit. I thought maybe he meant someone else, and I was getting confused with another guy called James in the lobby or something, and it was just a coincidence. About 5 minutes passed and I carried on playing and tried to forget about it. I was starting to enjoy playing again. In the game I was playing, I noticed in the kills feed, it said Killer Ken 663 connected. I was thinking, no way, not this guy again. I was still pretty weirded out, so I left the match. After finding another lobby, I was waiting for the game to start, and once again Killer Ken 663 popped up. I quickly left and went to look for a new game this time. Before I even searched for the game, I was the only one in the game that he joined. I sat there in complete and utter fear. He got on his mic and said, "Fucking die in hell, James, and I'm going to be the one to send you there." I instantly backed out and was scared as hell. What is wrong with this psycho? I blocked him thinking he must have just kept joining by going on recent players, annoyed with myself as that was the first thing I should have thought to do. I decided to stop playing that night as I was frightened by this crazy man threatening me. The next day when I turned on my PlayStation, I received a message. It was him, Killer Ken 663. The message read, "See you soon, James." This was 3 weeks ago. I haven't had any other incidences with this guy since, and I certainly hope it stays that way. I'm a female whose name is Allison. This story happened when I was 17. I was walking home late one night after finishing my shift at the store I work at. After about 5 minutes of walking, a car pulled up beside me. It was a police car. I thought I was in some kind of trouble. A policeman then got out of the car and said, "Can I give you a lift home?" I wouldn't usually get into a stranger's car, but as it was a policeman, I assumed it would be safe, and the neighborhood I lived in at the time wasn't the nicest, and had a high crime rate. I took him up on his offer, got in his car, gave my address, and then he started driving. He was very overweight, had a mustache and a mole on his left cheek. The first few minutes of the car ride were pretty awkward, as he nor I didn't say anything, until he spoke up and said, "Lucky I picked you up when I did. All sorts of young women like yourself get assaulted around here, allegedly." And then he chuckled. I thought that's a strange thing to say, and even found it amusing, especially for a cop. Right after that he said, "But I got you safe in my hands, so don't you worry." As he said this, he placed his hand on my thigh, giving a small chuckle once again. His fingernails were long and broken and really disgusting. I awkwardly smiled and chuckled with him. I was feeling very uncomfortable at this point. He removed his hand and put it back on the steering wheel. I just looked outside the window, regretting my decision to get into his car. A few moments go by until he spoke again. "Do you work out? Those are some nice firm legs you have." To which I replied, Sometimes when I can." He said nothing, just carried on driving. At this point I noticed we had been driving longer than we should have. I didn't say anything as I was too nervous and thought maybe he was just taking a different route than usual to my house. He then said, "Must be tiring." I replied with a slight stutter, "What's tiring?" A short pause before he said, "To work out and have nice firm legs like that. I think you need a nice rub down." At this point I was really freaked out and thought my life was now in danger. I then tried to pull my phone out of my bag to call my boyfriend, but as soon as I put my hand in my bag he screamed, Don't even think about it. He snatched my bag and threw it out the window. I was thinking I'm going to be killed, and I started to cry. He then proceeded to pull into a secluded parking lot and park the car. I was too scared to move. He just sat there, looking down at the steering wheel, breathing heavily. Then he got out of the car and opened up the trunk. I quickly jumped across the driver's side seat and flung the door open. The man rushed back from the trunk and was there to intercept me. He grabbed my arm and tried to pull me back into the car. I bit his hand as hard as I could and screamed, "Let go!" I ran away as fast as I could, not looking back. I heard his car start and the tires screech, driving off fast. I ran and hid in a nearby forest. I hid for what felt like hours, till I could see the distant headlights of the police car patrolling the area. Thankfully, he gave up and never found me, and eventually drove off. I gathered up some courage and ran all the way home. I only told my parents and boyfriend about the incident. I don't trust the police anymore, and certainly don't walk home alone at night. This happened just a few hours ago at 2 a.m. I live in an apartment complex downtown, and it's also filled with lots of university students, but the building also houses many of the non-university students on the top floor where the penthouses are located. A little bit of background information. I'm sort of a manager-resident advisor for the uni students that live in the building. There are 3 of us and someone is on call every night with a central on-call phone to deal with any issues that students may have. I woke up at 2:20 a.m. to someone knocking on my door. I use knocking loosely here, as a person was kicking, pounding, and body slamming my door while trying to use the keypad to key in over and over again. I quietly looked out my peephole and saw a man who seemed under the influence. At the time, I was terrified that things would get worse if he knew I was home, so I tried to be as quiet as possible. I grabbed a kitchen knife for reassurance. Then I went to my room and started calling the person on call to help me, but he wasn't picking up. I called the person above him and told them the situation, but they weren't sure what to do and thought maybe we had to call the city police. But she said she would call around and then call me back immediately. I would have immediately called the police, but the last 3 times I've called them for other issues, as an RA here, I've had to go down and then badge them into the building. I was terrified of having to unlock my door and go out. I decided to start calling everyone else I knew in the building. Number 1, to get someone to see what the fuck was going on from the other side. And number 2, to get someone to open the building door for the police if I were to call them. I called my friends and the other community manager RAs, my supervisor, but no one was picking up. The person on area duty finally calls me back and says the higher-ups just want to have an extra set of eyes on the situation. But she doesn't have a car, so she wants me to wait until she can call an Uber. I'm terrified at this point and go back into my living room and see that the bottom left corner of my door has been kicked in, and the only thing keeping it from opening is the deadbolt. It's 2:52 a.m. now, and the guy's pounding and trying to key in stops. So I look out my peephole and see one of my residents down the hall talking to this guy for 5 minutes before leaving in the elevator. I wait a minute or 2 and then come out of my apartment to go knock on the RA's door. He told me he was just about to write me a note because he thought I was probably inside terrified. He apparently came out because the pounding was so loud, reverberating, that he thought someone was at his door. The guy was trying to get into his girlfriend's apartment and didn't have his phone on him. Additionally, the passcode his girlfriend gave him wasn't working. My resident let him borrow his phone to call his girlfriend. Turns out she's directly a floor above me. The resident was always a super nice guy and gave me his number in case anything ever happens in the future. I take a look at my door and it's almost falling off the bottom 2 hinges. Considering this went on for 40 minutes, I can see why my door is in such bad shape. But also, who does this? Even if you're drunk and you thought it was your girlfriend's apartment, why would you try to break down the door to get in? The RA manager on duty finally comes over to my apartment at 3 a.m. after duty finally got in touch with them. I filled them in and we went upstairs to talk to this guy. The girlfriend opens the door, asks us what we want, and after asking to talk to her boyfriend, she's pretty adamant about not wanting to wake him up because he's tired. Okay. I show her the photos of the damage and she's pretty upset, so she tries waking him up to no avail, but we were pretty clear that we weren't leaving until we got to talk to him. He finally gets up and apologizes because he had the wrong door. I showed him the photos and he denies that he caused the damage, saying he only knocked softly. His girlfriend in the back seemed pretty upset and disappointed in him, and he snapped at her saying, "Well, what was I supposed to do? I didn't have my phone and you didn't pick up earlier." Apparently they just moved in on Sunday, and he didn't remember where the room was. The person on duty and I asked to see his ID, and asked if we could take a picture, which he agreed to. We left and I filed a maintenance request for the door, wrote an email to my boss and the leasing manager, and also called the police to file the report. The police came. I let them into my building, showed them the damage and explained everything. They said it was probably an honest mistake and just gave me a case number to give to the leasing manager so that they can bill for potential damage. I asked if they could give me an update afterwards, mostly for my sanity and reassurance, but they said it was unnecessary and there wasn't really anything else I needed to know. It was a terrifying experience and I'm glad I'm alive, because I thought I was honestly going to die. This had me pretty shook, and I usually would have been up at 2 in the morning, but I'm trying to go to sleep earlier, because I'm taking the MCAT on Saturday. I'm trying to do some last-minute studying while I wait for someone to come fix my door. In retrospect, I'm pretty worried for the girlfriend upstairs, because the guy wasn't exhibiting normal behavior, even for someone that's intoxicated. I'm going to be extra cognizant of noises from upstairs, and I'll call someone if it sounds like there's any instances of domestic violence or abuse. Thank you for watching, guys. Please make sure to leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe for more videos. I want to welcome all the new subscribers to the channel. There's well over 1,000 of you in the past month. I want to thank you guys for all the positive and supportive comments. It really makes this worth doing for me. If you want your stories to be featured, leave me an email at thesinfulsavant@gmail.com. Until we meet again, stay sinful.